Come on into the studio as we get you ready for Week 6 on the road against the Raiders. Guys, Bill Belichick said after their second straight blowout loss that the team needed to start all over. Where would you start, Evan?
I would start by taking all of the positive things that this offense did in Week 1 against the Eagles in practice, and I would just put those highlights up on the film, right? Like, go put them up on the board and say, hey, look, we did this just a couple weeks ago. This was us, right? This wasn't, some other team or something like that. We hit this play, we hit this touchdown. Remember how you felt? And try to recapture some of that early season success. I know they weren't coming out of the gate like this elite offense in the first couple weeks of the season, but it wasn't like it has been the last 2 weeks. So go back, remember what you're good at, remember your staple plays, go back to basics, just square one with this team.
Yeah, the schedule shifted a little bit this week. They gave the guys Monday off. Tuesday was the day that everyone first came in. So I just wondered, what are those changes going to look like? How are they going to manifest themselves on the field? I don't feel like they've got a lot of options to switch things up a lot. I mean, we can talk about Mac Jones. Do you make a move there? I don't know yet, but I think there's a lot of things to consider. Maybe on the offensive line, do you juggle that a little bit? There's some things to consider, maybe some tweaks.
After looking at the Raiders on Monday night versus Green Bay, what worries you about this team as the Patriots head out west?
Well, it's definitely that defense and Maxx Crosby up front. Like, Maxx Crosby's, again, one of these Micah Parsons level playmakers on the defensive line for the Raiders, and he had a huge game last night against the Packers, and he'll do it against the pass or the run. I mean, he's making plays behind the line of scrimmage in the run game, and he's getting after Jordan Love. They have to figure out a way to keep Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi protected a little bit better. I mean, that's the bottom line. This team offensively is not going anywhere if their offensive line doesn't get themselves in order and have a much better performance in pass protection than they've had the last couple of weeks, and that's going to start this week with blocking Crosby.
Yeah, Evan's right. I mean, Crosby with the Patriots offensive line, how they perform, it's a big one, but just look at the talent across the offensive side of the ball as well. I mean, Josh Jacobs, Davante Adams, I mean, Jakobi Meyers, guy who knows this team, their familiarity with Josh McDaniels, the coaching staff. So I think it's a challenge, too, on the defensive side of the ball for the Patriots. How do they match up with these receivers? We know how reliable Jakobi is. Even though Davante Adams experienced a little bit of shoulder injury, he still was really effective the other night against the Packers, so they're going to have to find a way to deal with those guys too.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a very explosive offense for the Raiders outside of Davante Adams, and I think this is some of the issues that the 49ers ran in with Jimmy Garoppolo as well. He's somebody that wants to throw to the middle of the field. He wants to throw quickly, use that quick release of his to throw in-breaking routes. You could talk about things like in-cuts, slants, crossers. Those are his bread and butter money type of routes. So if you can get those routes and kind of funnel him to the outside of the field, then I think you can have some success against the quarterback. Obviously, covering Davante Adams on the outside is its own thing, but I think the Patriots will have some things up their sleeve like they did last year against Vegas. It's a very similar offense despite the fact that the quarterback has changed. There are some new things from Josh McDaniels, using a little bit more motion, a little bit more Shanahan-style concepts, obviously with Garoppolo coming from that offense. But in general, I think you have to take away those in-breaking routes, and I think the Patriots will have some success in doing that.
We have John Jones back in the Patriots lineup for the first time in 3 weeks. Also, J.C. Jackson had his first game since reuniting with the Patriots. Where do you see them two coming into play this weekend against the Raiders?
Well, J.C. Jackson played about 50% of the snaps in his return. I think that's going to go way up as he gets more comfortable with being back in New England. My expectation is that Jackson and Jonathan Jones are going to be your outside corners for the rest of the season, health permitting, obviously. And then you have guys like Miles Bryant or Jalen Mills that can play that slot role. But I really looked at both of those guys and thought if those are your biggest issues against the Saints, then you probably were going to be in that game. I thought Jonathan Jones looked great on film and looked like the old Jonathan Jones that we have grown to know around here. And JC gave up a few plays, but I think in general was okay. So if those are your two outside corners, I don't think that you're going to be overly concerned about that being a problem moving forward. Now, the front and the pass rushes without Matthew Judon, that's another conversation. But in terms of what you looked at with those cornerbacks, I thought they acclimated themselves pretty well.
Just wonder if they're able to still slide Jonathan Jones inside in the slot, maybe this week against Jakobi Meyers. Do they have that flexibility? Shaun Wade's been getting some time. He's made a couple plays. He's given up a couple plays. So just wonder how much flexibility they'll still have to move him inside.
That's it for us three as we get you ready for Week 6 out in Las Vegas. For more coverage leading up to the game, go to Patriots.com and Patriots YouTube.